file 25011. Okay, we are on record for our first review and permanency planning hearing in this matter. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Carson Howard, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Grant.
Chelsea Grant for the department.
Michael McFarland, representing Miller. Did you hear that, Your Honor?
All right, Mr. Howitt, let's start with your report.
Yes, sir. I was able to meet with the minor child in her home on June 5th, 2025. And she had recently got home from school and was watching TV, and she let me know that it was the last day of school and that she did attend in person. This reporting period I would classify as being a struggle for her. She's been in and out of some hospitals due to mental health. She did not regularly attend school. And then she's had some, just learning now about maybe some issues with some drug use. When talking, about school, she would not share any barriers that prevent her from going to school, which was a little bit different from the last reporting period where she said that she may have been being bullied. Just a mix of mental health and sickness, I think, are really what's keeping her out of there. Also of concern for me is when she does attend school, she puts little to no effort into her work. It's reflected in her poor grades in school, and poor attendance, but the grades are bad in classes that you would think she'd find interest in, maybe something like art. She still struggles with that kind of thing. She did share that there's not really many plans for the summer. She's not eligible for summer school due to her poor attendance, but she also let me know that maybe that she would like to attend a local pool. She likes to swim, so maybe that's something that can get her out and about, and she would get past with her cousin. Mom, I'm talking to her that she's kind of at a loss of what to do. She's trying all these different things to get her to go to school. She tried to motivate her with rewarding her for good grades, for paying for driver's ed and stuff like that, but she's had no success, and I'm not sure what other strategies she is or isn't trying, but I'm not sure what the loss of communication is there. Not being able to go to school. The house I did observe to be a little bit more clean, a little less cluttered. They did have a bunch of garbage going out on that big trash pickup day last week, but still some work to be done there. I kind of would have to say I'm at a loss on this case right now. There's a lot of work being put into this family, and with so many different providers, and you can see them in the court today, but there's just not a lot of results or progress being made when it comes to Matt or the child. I don't really know if it's in her best interest to remain with her mom, but at the same time, I don't know of any alternatives to remaining with her mother that would best fit her or better fit her or better suit her. But she does remain that she wants to stay with her mom, and I guess I'll wait to make a determination on her best interests in closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just update you for the record in case you didn't realize this, but there is also a companion delinquency case with the violation of release conditions for the child as recently as May 15th. And that was for some of those same issues that you've identified here today, Mr. Howard. So if anybody's curious about that, Ms. Lykowski is her probation officer who's just joined us in the courtroom as well. Welcome. All right, testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I ask Ms. Grant to provide her report at this time.
Up to our witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Grant. For today's hearing, you've prepared a court report that includes the case service plan, some parent aid reports, a police report, IHT reports, a safety plan, and CMH safety plan, and then the attendance records from Adrian High School. Are there any other documents outside of this packet that have been circulated or filed with the court?
No.
Okay. And are there any updates or modifications that you're aware of that need to be made to any of those documents listed?
Not to the documents, no. Well, I can say I got an updated police report. But I didn't circulate because I just got it within the last couple of days.
Okay. All right. As it relates to the progress of the family, I guess, and any updates there, can you please tell us what's going on?
Sure. So over this reporting period, there are a lot of service providers that have been involved with this family. Those service providers have included truancy, probation, juvenile probation. We've had Parkside, we've had CMH, and there's also Adrian Counseling, also referred to as ACPC for short, doing medication management. So, and there's also a parent aid, I'm sorry. So in correlation, a lot of the service providers have been working with both the minor and mom regarding, the issues that brought the case here, including the probation, the mental health, the follow through, those sorts of things. This reporting period has been pretty rocky for both mom and Madison. There's been a lot of sometimes follow through, sometimes no follow through. So we've had a lot of issues where safety plans are put into place where mom's not necessarily following those safety plans. An incident will happen. We find out that mom's not following the safety plan after the fact, in the sense where the minor will end up going to the ER due to suicidal thoughts. I think that was back in March, where she had gotten access to a knife and had superficial cuts on her, where there was already a safety plan through CMH and the department to make sure all sharp objects are locked up. So that was one instance. There's been a couple other instances of making safety plans and mom's sometimes lack of follow through on them, ensuring that like things are locked up, or she'll go to the ER saying that she's suicidal and she's going to jump out of a second story window, and then mom is leaving her home alone. Providers have stated, like her CMH workers and things, that this is kind of I wouldn't say historical, but this behavior is kind of common for the minor child, in the sense that if she is pushed or asked to do something, her immediate response is, I'm going to harm myself, or coming up with something along those lines of stating, I'm suicidal, so I don't want to go. More recently, there's been a lot of, I don't feel good, I'm sick, concerns that her anxiety and maybe working herself up that she's so sick that she can't go to school, or she's at school and she's sick. She had even reported to the school that her house had bed bugs and lice, so that she could be sent home, which was not an accurate representation of what was happening. And so it's one of those where there's a lot of service providers and things in place trying to help and help the family, but mom very much struggles with reaching out and utilizing those supports appropriately to help put pressure on Madison. Their relationship is very much more, the minor child. Their relationship is very much more sisters than it is parent-child.
I too am feeling Mr. Howitt's sentiment of at a loss. I'm wondering, in all of the services that are being provided, if there have been any other recommendations for a different type of service or a different approach, or what is going to happen next. Can you speak on any of that?
Sure. So we did pivot just a little bit in the sense of it kind of goes along with my updates. So I can, if you want, I can put those both together. So we had originally, we're going to try a minor child into a program called Beyond Toledo. However, they don't take Michigan Medicaid. So that was a barrier we ended up having. And the price to pay out of pocket was just a little extenuous of what we could pay for. In talking to CMH, there was a pivot in that it was highly recommended since Parkside had closed their IHT because of lack of progress and, not seeing any benefits of the service, we pivoted back to having a therapist for the minor at CMH. In addition to that, it was recommended and the push for wraparound to also get involved with the family. So that has just taken place over, I want to say maybe the last week, that transition and introduction of that service has taken place. I had also followed up on both the CTAC and the psych for those recommendations to when we would get those. When I followed up last week, we would get the reports sometime this week, and I did get them this morning, but I haven't even had a chance to open them, circulate them, anything else since court was at 10 a.m. So those did come in, so we'll look at those recommendations and concerns listed in those. And I also had followed up with the ACPC medication provider, who had stated a lot of her concerns are the family is also not very forthcoming with information. They're very, she didn't even know that truancy was involved, we were involved. She had recommended therapy, but didn't know that IHT had been involved and CMH was back involved. She had reported that she believes that both mom and child are taking their medication, but there's no way for her to know because again, it's self-reporting. And she also echoes that concern where I believe it was back in March, I believe it was back in March, where she had recommended the minor be taken to Hillsdale Hospital for an evaluation on a Monday after stating she had been suicidal all weekend. And we actually had court. That happened on a Monday. We had court, I believe, on Tuesday. There was an IHT session on Friday, and we didn't learn until Friday after she had went home from school, maybe on Wednesday, seeing she was suicidal at school, that recommendation from ACPC had taken place to have her evaluated at Hillsdale Hospital until the session with IHT on Friday, where that had been disclosed during an argument between Melissa and the minor child during their IHT session.
At this point in time, do you believe that the continued in-home jurisdiction is most appropriate for the family?
I have mixed feelings about that. So I do have concerns that the minor child's not making any progress or significant progress while still in the home with her mother. I think it's kind of a lack of both understanding the seriousness of like the things going on, the mental health, the following for appointments. I have expressed the concern of, placement elsewhere, but they continue to state that there is no family. We had reached out to a couple of members that we had known from the family due to the history, but they are unwilling to take placement or be involved. Kind of essentially stating that neither parent or child would change, that even with movement outside of the home, like the behavior would be the same. I know there had been some discussion on if campus would be there, but that then came with the delinquency and it being for truancy and not necessarily criminal, to keep her motivated. And the concern would be any residentials or those kind of programs she wouldn't necessarily qualify for based on their requirements.
Is there anything else from your knowledge of the case or any of the updated information you have that you would like to highlight for the court today?
I don't think so. I think that was everything I wanted to touch base on.
All right, with that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Grant. I would move to admit her court report with the attachments.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
None.
Okay, I received questions, Mr. McFarland.
Are there any groups this minor child likes that might be able to get her in the right direction?
Specify more in groups.
Are there any interests that she likes that we could enroll her in, or maybe young Marines that might give her discipline and some guidance or something like that?
It's definitely something we can explore. Mom had gotten her a pool pass, which she has been utilizing. So it has gotten her out of the home. We thought art at school would be a motivator for her, but even when she's at school for art, she's sitting around, she's not really participating and doing anything, because those are things she likes to do at home. So it's really been a struggle sometimes to get her to engage with even things she does enjoy, unless it's what she wants to do, like the pool.
So she's not passed this last semester, correct?
No, she has 0 credits and will repeat the 9th grade.
At the same school?
Yes.
Do the schools have sit-down people to sit with you during classes or not, you know?
They do. I do believe that those would go with an IEP. She would have to be actively in school to qualify for, say, the IEP, but she has been tested previously before, and she's very smart. She had passed all of the requirements for an IEP, in the sense that she didn't qualify previously for an IEP to do that. But they would have to observe her physically in school long enough to complete that process.
Just refresh my memory, how old is she?
15, 16?
16?
She might have just turned 16, sorry.
Driver's ed, I heard the payment for driver's ed, is she actively engaged in that?
She, not right now, no.
Nothing for,
Mr. Howard?
Yes. Are there any strategies or anything that you've realized that is working with this family?
Not yet. I feel like we keep trying different ones to see if something will stick or make progress. We've tried written safety plans. We've offered assistance of, probation or truancy coming to the house in the mornings to help, or we even set up a safety plan at school for if she's feeling overwhelmed or upset, for her to go and maybe use some coping skills with Miss Noel. There's the service dog that she could utilize there. We set up breaks with Miss Noel during the day that she's able to utilize, but nothing is seeming to hinder her or just want being academically involved.
And when she was involved in online schooling at some point?
I don't believe she was, no.
But you don't need that then. It's my understanding that online school, you kind of have to like earn it to, you have to like do progress in person or have some sort of like motivation or willpower to be able to do it, that she wouldn't qualify for anything like that.
Correct. The biggest concern, including with mom, is the follow through on the work and actually doing it. It's not as closely monitored and held accountable. And we even offered that to her as an option if she's attending school and can earn it, like doing it. They have a hybrid program where you can go for a couple hours in the morning and finish the day in the afternoon at home. But she couldn't even be successful long enough to earn that privilege.
I guess what are the next steps or things that we might try next?
So right now we would utilize the wraparound program and things, which is new to the family. The behavior managements look at what the psychological evaluation for Melissa came back with, and then also the CTAP for the minor, what those recommendations are, and try to set that up. Unfortunately, she would have to repeat the 9th grade and maybe try to work with Adrian High School and what that would look like come August or September when they return to school.
And she's not eligible for any summer school,
She is not, because she missed too many days.
nothing further.
We considered a show cause against the mother in this case, for purposes of trying to get her to follow the safety plans and some of the other things in the case services plan.
Yes, we discussed that. I had sent one, and then everything kind of snowballed. We were gonna send it with the court report, and then we were gonna talk about it here, I believe, but
Okay.
yes, it was discussed.
Okay, and have you also considered asking for a QRTP evaluation for for the child?
I have not yet.
Is that something that you think would be an alternative?
We could try. I think the issue is going to be the qualifications for it, where behavior versus mental health isn't severe enough to meet the QTRP. But it's, I mean, something we can explore.
Okay.
You definitely would like that. We definitely can.
The child is also subject to the jurisdiction of this court as well as jurisdiction on juvenile court case. Do you have good communication with our juvenile probation officer on this one?
Very.
All right, very good. Okay, any questions based on my questions or redirect Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Just two questions.
Yep.
Minor child was testing out in the hall today, was she?
Yes.
You know what the results were?
No, it was a forensic fluid drug screen that probation was administering to her through the delinquency, although she did admit to locating another vape, but we had come in, so I wasn't able to clarify if it was a vape with just nicotine or if there was THC again involved.
And I suppose another option on your list of options would be possibility of moving his child to a foster care home. Is that also another option that might be explored?
It would be if we started talking about full removal, yes.
Nothing further.
Mr. Hunt?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. May I return to your seat? Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Hunt?
No, Your Honor.
Comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. This, as Your Honor had asked Ms. Grant, we have discussed the possibility of filing a show cause as relates to Ms. Dora, mostly for the failure to follow through with the case service plan. This court report is very indicative of the extreme efforts that are being put forth by service providers. It does not seem that the efforts from either the youth or Ms. Dora are being reciprocated. Given the continued concerns and the lack of progress, it's unclear how this case is going to move forward. I think that Ms. Grant has a good idea, and it may be wraparound will be the magic answer here, but I think Ms. Grant has a good idea of what potential steps could happen next, such as formally filing a show cause and also making the referral for a QRTP assessment or Maximus assessment to consider whether QRTP is appropriate. One of the concerns I know that we've also had throughout this case is whether foster care would be appropriate given the youth's age and sort of defiance, and whether that would result in some sort of AWOL or mental health crises. So we are very open to this court's recommendations and instructions and guidance, frankly. And with that, Your Honor, I would ask for a 90-day review, if not sooner, just to maybe monitor the family a little closer, and perhaps the judicial oversight would encourage them or motivate them to really take the services seriously and perhaps benefit from them. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, I've had a discussion with my client, Your Honor. We thought some of this was going to be resolved with my client filing theft charges against your daughter and the police investigating that. She did contact the police. Unfortunately, the police didn't follow through, I've been told by my client.
Oh, well, I apologize for the interruption, Mr. McFarland, but I have the police report that she made. And it indicates that her daughter withdrew money from the account without her knowledge. It was $60 and it was withdrawn, but that your client was unsure how exactly she got the money, whether it was online or debit, and requested a forward state of the statement. It's not the strongest police report I've ever read, but
Right, I understand that. I guess what I'm trying to say is my client did try to proceed on that path. This is the point I'm trying to make, Your Honor.
I can appreciate it.
I have explained to her what a contempt of court proceedings is and the severity of that, and that's usually a last recourse, but a way to drive the point home that the agency means business. So I think she knows where we are. It maybe perhaps the DL case might also give some assistance with what it has to offer also, which is the criminal side of this, which is using the abbreviations my client knows DL is. So I'll rest with that, Your Honor. And I would also state this is the first review, so we are kind of testing and working through navigating this. And doesn't look like anything can really be done scholastically, so maybe we can get child into things that she likes to do that will motivate her. So that's what our hopes are. Thanks.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, sir. This is a tough one, balancing the child's mental health with what, I and most of her providers would agree with that she needs, which is a reliable schedule and some engagement in school and, taking care of her issues with nicotine or vape use or drug use, whatever it may be. But I really do worry about what her future looks like and what life looks like when her mom is not able to take care of her if she doesn't engage in some of these things, whether it be school or a job or something this summer. I worry about how that keeps snowballing, getting pushed down the road. There's virtually no progress being made on the key points like schooling. I know the house was a little bit cleaner, but still work to be done. So I would think at this point it'd be appropriate for the agency, and it sounds like they're already looking into it, but just looking into some other options outside of staying with mom. I don't know what that looks like. That's foster care, QRTP. But right now what's going on is just not working. It's not in the best interest of the child. So it needs to either be progress made in this next review or something else, in my opinion. And for that reason, I think it may be appropriate to appoint the child a court-appointed attorney if what I believe is in the best interest of her diverges from her wishes, which is to stay with her mom. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. I don't think we're quite at the point where I'm going to appoint an attorney for the child just because we don't know what's going to happen in the next report period. Excuse me. So there's a couple things I want to mention about my observations of the family. First, I'll go ahead and note for the record that we do have reasonable efforts being made by the department, spearheaded by Ms. Grant, of course, with the assistance and support of the LASD as well as our own probation department. There's a lot of service providers acknowledged in today's report, including Parkside and CMH. There's a lot of supports in this case. And of course, including also Mr. Howard. All of our attorneys and participants are certainly in compliance with their obligations to the family in this case. And this is our first report and review, but it has been the first review period, the first 3 months, and none of the services are effective. And from what it looks like, it's because we need mom and the child to both engage in those services. I did read that the short stint in detention did motivate the child to go to school for a few days following that. So that is something that will continue to be explored in that delinquency case, and I'll trust Ms. Lakowski to do that and to monitor whether or not any additional criminal proceedings will be brought against the child. I would encourage Ms. Grant to look at the QRTP option because there are also a significant behavioral issue in that the mental health needs are being used rather than trying to find a way to succeed despite those diagnoses. We have a child in this case who is literally using them to her advantage in order to get out of trying to go to school and accomplish her goals. And that is a serious problem. We have a lot of individuals in our community that don't have access to nearly as many services because there's wait lists and there's a limited number of service providers. To allow these services to be squandered is not appropriate. So if we need a long-term resolution for Madison, or for the child, I should say, that will include looking at QRTP for her by way of campus through the jurisdiction of this court or the delinquency case. And I'm open to that because frankly, She needs to learn that tools are not to be squandered, and neither are the supports and services of our service providers in the community. Unfortunately, many of the same comments and observations have to apply to the mother in this case, failing to follow safety plans and to take appropriate measures, resulting in the need to have the child taken to the hospital for a 5-day stay and the last report period is also very concerning. I am very interested in securing compliance in this case in one way or another, and not squandering the opportunities that this family has right now. Because once these programs are exhausted, that's it. And that leaves basically incarceration for failing to follow your case services plans and potentially other issues that may arise for the family as a result of the refusal to move forward on your goals. So you've been warned. Please make sure you follow safety plans and do what's being asked of you. Because my job is to make sure that what happens is working in the best interest of the minor. And there's a lot of behaviors that need to be turned around in this case in order to make sure that that's happening. All right. The child will remain placed with mother for the next report period, pending some of the investigation into some of the additional options that we talked about here today. And we'll have our next review and permanency planning hearing on September 9th at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll have the order ready in a few minutes if you'd like to wait for it in the hallway. And unless there's any questions, that's all for today.